Listen up, folks. Take a seat. Pour yourself something strong, and maybe just a bitter cup of joe like the one sitting on my desk right now. It's cold. It's been sitting there since the sun went down. And honestly, it tastes like the job. Bitter, dark, and leaves a bad aftertaste. 30 years. 30 years behind the shield, walking the beat, climbing the ladder to the squad room. You think you've seen every way a human can break. You think you've smelled every kind of rot. But then comes a case that gets under your skin. A case that makes you realize the American dream is sometimes just a high-end coat of paint on a crumbling wall. I remember the call. 3 in the morning. I was fresh meat back then, just a few years into the detective gig. The phone rings, cutting through the silence of my studio apartment like a razor. It was the desk sergeant. "Jack," he says, "we got a ghost house out at Oakwood, the Millers. Neighbors say the porch light's been on for 3 days, but the dog hasn't stopped howling. Get out there." I grabbed my coat, checked my piece, and headed out into the rain. I didn't know it then, but I was about to walk into a mystery that would stay on the cold caseboard for a decade. This wasn't just a missing persons report. This was a vanishing act. Oakwood, you know the place. White picket fences, manicured lawns, the kind of neighborhood where people pay a premium just to pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist. It's the suburbs, folks, where law and order is supposed to be the baseline. I pull up to 42 Maple Drive. The rain is coming down in sheets. The house is a 2-story colonial, beautiful. But as I walk up that driveway, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. I meet my partner, Miller, no relation to the victims, at the door. He's looking pale. We badge our way past the first responders. "Jack," he whispers, "it's weird. No forced entry, no blood, just nothing." We step inside. The heat is humming. The house smells like cinnamon and laundry detergent. It smells like a home. We walk into the kitchen, and that's when the chill hits me. On the table, 4 plates, scrambled eggs now green with mold, half-eaten toast hard as a brick, a carton of orange juice sitting out, curdled. The morning paper was still in the plastic sleeve on the counter. Date, Tuesday. Today was Friday. The Millers, Dave, Sarah, and their 2 kids, Leo and Maya, had sat down for breakfast on Tuesday morning, and then, poof, like they'd been beamed up by a saucer. We did the sweep. Upstairs, the beds were unmade, just like they would be on a school morning. Sarah's purse was sitting on the vanity. Her ID, her credit cards, her bread was all there. Dave's keys were on the hook by the door. The kids' backpacks were lined up by the mudroom, packed with homework that would never be graded. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass. No blue wall of silence could hide the fact that this house was screaming. How does a whole family, plus a golden retriever, walk out of a house in blighted daylight without a single neighbor seeing a thing? I stood in the middle of that living room looking at their family portrait over the fireplace. They looked perfect, teeth white, smiles wide. But I've learned one thing in 30 years on the force. The more perfect the front, the more shady the back. The next 48 hours, we were digging up dirt. You see, when a family vanishes, you start with the inner circle. Neighbors, co-workers, the snitch down the street who knows everyone's business. I spent Saturday morning knocking on doors. I talked to Mrs. Gable next door. She's the type who watches the street through the slats of her blinds. They were lovely, she tells me, her voice shaken. But Dave, he was stressed lately.
I saw him in the driveway at 2 a.m. smoking. He didn't even smoke, detective. Interesting. I head back to the precinct and start running the numbers. You want to find someone? Follow the money. Always follow the money. We got a warrant for Dave's financials. On the surface, he was a VP at a mid-sized tech firm, pulling in 6 figures. The house was paid for. But then we looked under the hood. Dave Miller wasn't just a tech guy, he was a gambler. Not the kind who goes to Vegas and loses a few grand on the craps table. No, Dave was into the deep water. We found offshore bank accounts, empty. We found a series of wire transfers to a shell company in the Caymans. The perfect family was drowning in debt. We're talking 7 figures. He'd leveraged the house, the 401k, even the kids' college funds. He was under the radar with his spending, but the sharks were starting to circle. Then we found the shady connections. Sarah wasn't just a PTA mom. She'd been making calls to a burner phone registered to a guy named Vinny the Tailor. Now, Vinny isn't someone you call for a hemline. He's a known associate of the Gambino-affiliated crews in the city. Suddenly, the quiet suburb didn't feel so quiet. It felt like a powder keg. Did Dave owe the wrong people, or did Sarah find a way out that involved a hush-hush deal? Folks, I've seen it 1,000 times. A guy gets a taste of the high life, thinks he's smarter than the house, and tries to play the system. But the system has teeth, and when those teeth close, they don't care if you've got a wife and kids in the car. By Monday, the feds were sniffing around. They thought it was a kidnapping for ransom. We had the house bugged, waiting for a call that never came. Then we got a lead. A local snitch we call Ratty Pete pulls me aside in a diner downtown. "Hey, Jack," Pete whispers, smelling like stale beer. "I saw something. Tuesday morning, a black SUV, tinted windows, sitting at the end of Maple Drive, engine idling. 2 guys inside, looking like they stepped out of a Men in Black flick." This was our red herring. Every case has one, something that looks so juicy you can't help but bite. We spent 3 days chasing that SUV. We pulled every CCTV frame from the local gas stations. We checked the plates, stolen out of Jersey. We finally tracked the vehicle to a chop shop in Queens. We moved in fast. We booked them, 2 low-level muscle guys. We thought we had the inside job solved. I spent 6 hours in the box with one of them, a guy named Rico. "Where are they, Rico?" I slammed my hand on the table. "Where's the family?" Rico just laughed. "Man, we were there to repo a car. Dave Miller owed my boss for a Mercedes he couldn't pay for. We got to the house Tuesday morning, saw the place was empty, and figured someone else got to him first. We dipped. We ain't kidnappers, Jack. We're just debt collectors." He was telling the truth. The SUV was a dead end. We were back to square one. The trail was cold, and the blue wall of the neighborhood started to close back up. People didn't want to talk anymore. They wanted to forget the Millers ever existed. It's easier to sleep at night if you think it was just a crime and not something deeper. We went back to the house. I mean, really went back. I'm talking floorboards up, drywall out. I wasn't leaving until I found the ghost in the machine. In the basement, behind a false panel in the furnace room, we found it, a small fireproof safe. Inside, 3 burner phones, a stack of fake passports, high quality, the kind only the feds or a professional cleaner can get, and a laptop. I called in our tech guy, a kid we called the Wizard. He spent 10 hours cracking the encryption. When he finally got in, his face went white. "Jack," he said, Dave Miller wasn't just gambling, he was skimming. He was working for his tech firm, sure, but he was also routing data, encrypted military specs. He was selling inside info to a foreign entity. The bread we saw leaving the accounts, it wasn't just losses, it was a nest egg. Dave had been planning this for months. He knew the walls were closing in, from the mob, from his debt, and from the FBI. He didn't get kidnapped. He didn't get whacked. He executed a plan. The digital trail showed us the how. He'd hired a private extractor, a guy who specializes in making people disappear. The breakfast on the table, that was the stage. He wanted it to look like a sudden vanishing. He wanted us to chase the red herring of the mob. While we were checking plates on a black SUV, the Millers were already 3 states away, switching cars in a prearranged blind spot where the cameras were conveniently out of order. But even a mastermind makes a mistake. One of the burner phones had a single outgoing text sent at 8:15 a.m. on Tuesday, just 4 words. The bird is flying. The signal bounced off a tower near a private airfield in upstate New York. We raced there, but we were 5 days late. A private charter had taken off for South America. Destination unknown.
So, what's the bitter truth, folks? 10 years later, I got a postcard. No return address. Just a picture of a beach in a place where the sun always shines. On the back, it said, "The eggs were cold, but the life is warm. Thanks for the chase, Jack." Dave Miller didn't lose his life. He traded it. He realized the American dream he'd been sold, the house, the corporate ladder, the suburban perfection, was a trap. He was a slave to the interest rates and the expectations. He chose to die so he could live. He took his wife and his kids and he scrubbed them from the face of the earth. He committed the ultimate inside job on his own life. Some people call it a victory. They say, hey, he beat the system. But me? I think about those kids, Leo and Maya. They didn't get to choose. One day they're eating scrambled eggs, thinking about their math test, and the next, they're ghosts in a foreign land. They lost their friends, their home, their identity. They're living a lie, even if the sun is shining. The Millers didn't vanish into thin air. They vanished into the greed of a man who thought he could have it all without paying the price.
In the States, we're taught to run. Run for the money. Run for the status. Run for the fence with the gate. But when you run that fast, you forget what you're carrying. Dave Miller thought he was saving his family. In reality, he just put them in a different kind of prison. A prison with a view of the ocean, maybe, but a prison nonetheless. You can change your name. You can burn your past. You can move to the other side of the globe. But you can't outrun the man in the mirror. Eventually, the bill comes due. And the cold case isn't the file on my desk. It's the heart beating in his chest. Be careful what you wish for, folks. The American dream is a beautiful thing. But if you have to lie, steal, and snitch on your own soul to get it, well, then you're just another missing person waiting to happen. This is Detective Jack. The coffee's empty, and the lights are dimming. Stay safe, stay real, and for God's sake, watch out for the quiet suburbs. They're the loudest places on earth, if you know how to listen.